Hi everyone, welcome back to The Woman Next Door. I am Anukriti. If you're new here, this is a podcast about real Indian women juggling careers, relationships, motherhood, and everything in between. Today I want to talk about something that every Indian woman has felt at some point. Something that was decided for us long before we had any say in it. Beauty. Specifically, what beauty looks like in India. And more specifically, why a certain kind of beauty has been put on a pedestal for so long that we have all been quietly measured ourselves against it without even realizing it. This is not a rant. This is not me being bitter. This is me being honest and curious. And I think by the end of this conversation, you'll feel seen. Not sad, seen. Let's get into it. The standard that we have inherited while growing up in the 80s and the 90s of beauty. So one would absorb a very specific idea of what a beautiful Indian woman looked like. You know, fair skin, large eyes, sharp features, slim, tall enough but not too tall. And nobody sat us down and explained this. Nobody handed a rule book to us. It just seeped in through movies, through the songs, through the magazines, through the aunties at family functions, through the matrimonial ads in the newspapers. It would always be Gori Sundar Sushil, which translates to fair, beautiful and well-mannered, in that order. Always in that order. And the interesting thing is, this standard didn't come from nowhere. It has roots, deep roots. So, where did this fairness obsession come from? Let me give you some context, because I think when you understand where something is coming from, it loses a little bit of its power over you. The obsession with fair skin in India has multiple origins. The caste system has played a key role. So historically, communities that worked outdoors in professions like farming, labor, they tended to be darker because of the sun exposure. Communities with more indoor, privileged lives, they tended to be fairer. And over centuries, fairness has become associated with privilege, status, and power. Then came the British colonialism. For 200 years, the ruling, powerful class in India was fair-skinned. That association of fairness with intelligence, authority, and desirability seeped deeply into our collective consciousness. And fair became aspirational because the powerful were fair. And then the era of Fair and Lovely. You know, for decades, a facial cream that promised to lighten your skin was one of the best-selling beauty products in India. I personally know so many women, smart, educated, accomplished women who applied it every single day. Not because they were foolish, but because the messaging was everywhere. Fairer skin meant better prospects, better marriage, and hence a better life. The product has been renamed now. You can Google it. But the conditioning that it fed, that's still very much alive. So growing up, I used to watch Miss India, Miss Universe, Miss World, all of these pageants every year with women representing their nations or their states and cultures on a platform. And there was one thing that was common across every participant that represented India. Extraordinarily fair skin, sharp features, large eyes, a very specific kind of beautiful. And I remember watching as a young girl and feeling, without anyone saying it explicitly, that okay, this is what beautiful looks like. This is the standard. And we already heard about Aishwarya Rai, Sushmita Sen winning Miss World and Miss Universe in 94. Both stunning women, but both fitting a certain mold. And that confirmed the notion. And then came Priyanka Chopra, Lara Datta in 2000. And something felt different. Not dramatically different, but I think a crack appeared. A slightly different version of Indian beauty on the world stage was being represented. And slowly, very slowly, the pageants have started to reflect more diversity. So, darker complexions, different features, different kinds of beautiful. And it is changing. But the baseline, the default setting of what we consider beautiful, is still the same in so many households in India. And for those of us who grew up in the 90s, the message was very clear. Beautiful had a very specific address and not everyone lived in it. Let's talk about something that we all know happens, but it is rarely said aloud in arranged marriage setups. And this is very much the reality of a lot of Indian families. Complexion is on the checklist, often at the top. Fair complexion is always preferred. Wheatish is acceptable. And the word wheatish, let's just acknowledge it, it's doing a lot of work in a lot of matrimonial ads. And I think part of the reason is something very honest and very unsettling, uncomfortable. The hope that the next generation will be fairer. That if you marry someone fair, your children will be fairer. That the gene pool will somehow correct what the current generation considers a flaw. Let's be honest about this. I have heard it said. You probably have heard it said as well. A boy's family choosing a fair girl, not just for her, but for what her complexion might mean for their grandchildren. It sounds absolutely absurd when you say it out loud. But it still happens. And it comes from the same deep conditioning. Fair equals more beautiful. Fair equals more valuable. Now I want to take you to my childhood, something very personal. So I have a wheatish complexion and I have smaller eyes. So what makeup artists call hooded eyes or monolid eyes. And I found out that term for the first time on my wedding day when my makeup artist, she paused and named what I had been feeling sorry for my whole life. So growing up, I was in the same school from standard 1st to standard 9, and somewhere along the way, the boys found a nickname for the tall girl with small eyes. I was called China Gate. That was me. Maybe they couldn't tolerate somebody who would stand in the assembly along with them because she was taller. I don't know, they just had some kind of notions that because I had smaller eyes, I looked like the Chinese. I can't even think about what was going on in their mind while they used to make fun of me or tease me at that point. And I won't say that it didn't hurt. It did. But I also made a quiet decision somewhere in that hurt. If I can't be the beautiful one, I'll be the one that they can't ignore. I was always a good student, but I studied harder to maintain my rank in the class. I participated in every solo performance, poetry, elocution, speeches, essay writing, spaces where nobody could outshine me because it had nothing to do with how I looked. And looking back, that little girl was smart. I think she found her own stage. But I also think, why did she have to? Why did a child have to reroute her joy because she didn't have the right eye shape or the right height? And it wasn't just in school. At that age, I used to watch Miss India and my favorite actress was Aishwarya Rai. My favorite actor was Hrithik Roshan. Both extraordinarily beautiful by every conventional standard. And I'll be honest, I loved them because they were beautiful. That was the first reason. Not their talent, but their beauty. A girl being called China Gate and her heroes were the two people who most perfectly embodied every standard she didn't meet. That's how deep the conditioning goes, even in the people it excluded. I've heard cute my whole life, cute smile, sweet girl, and at times even sexy. But beautiful, very rarely. And I used to wonder why. Is beauty only about Kamal Nain or lotus eyes? Is beauty only about large almond shaped eyes, doe eyes, and fair skin and sharp features? Because that's what the song said. That's what the poems said. That's what the school stage showed us every single time. Here's something that stopped me in my tracks when I was doing some research around this episode. So, Shakespeare wrote a poem called Sonnet 130 in the 1600s. And he describes his lover and goes through every beauty standard of his time: bright eyes, red lips, fair skin, golden hair. And then he says, she has none of these things. And then says, and yet she is as rare and precious as any woman who is falsely compared to the impossible ideals. This was 400 years ago. The same conversation, the same impossible standard, the same woman being told she doesn't quite meet the mark. And here we are in 2026, still having it. And doe-eyed Kamal Nain, it didn't start with Bollywood. The fairness obsession didn't start with Fair and Lovely. These standards were being written and rewritten long before any of us were born. We just inherited them and are trying to release it with every passing generation. I'll share another honest thing. So, when I was expecting our child, I was quietly hoping that if it's a daughter, she doesn't inherit my eyes. Because I was not sure if the word is kinder now. Because I wasn't sure what the beauty standard looks like in the eyes of teenagers. That she would have bigger, wider eyes so she wouldn't have to hear what I heard. That thought that a mother would wish away her own features from her child tells you everything about how deep this conditioning is. Not because I think my eyes are ugly, but because I knew what the word would say, and I wanted to protect her from it. That's the weight we carry, not just on ourselves, but forward into the next generation. And I'll also tell you one moment that shifted something in me. A friend of a friend, someone I barely knew, came up to me in office one day and said, Anukriti, you have such a beautiful face. Every time you change your hair, you look like a completely different person and so expressive. That's it. That's all she said. And I cannot tell you what that did to me. This near stranger with no agenda, no reason to it, just saw something and said it out loud. That's the power of words. One genuine compliment from one person who meant it, and one insensitive comment can do an equal damage. So beauty truly lies in the eyes of the beholder. And on the days you don't feel it yourself, sometimes all it takes is just one person who does. And look, I'm not against makeup. I am not against any enhancement that makes you feel more confident. By all means, do the makeup. Accentuate whatever features make you feel like yourself. If it boosts your confidence, do all of it. And I know the beauty standard conversation goes far beyond eyes and complexion. Women are told you are too tall, too short, the shape of your hands, your feet, your body. There's no version of women that has fully escaped judgment. And that conversation honestly deserves its own episode, and I'll come back to it someday. But today, I want to leave you with two things. First, find your confidence from within. The most magnetic women I have ever met are not always the most conventionally beautiful, but they walk into a room and you feel them. That comes from knowing who you are. It comes from doing things that you are good at. It comes from what you bring to the table, how much substance you've got, from building a life that feels like yours. Confidence is visible, it is beautiful, and nobody can give it to you or take it away. Second, compliment the women around you. Tell your friend she looks beautiful today. Tell your colleague her energy lights up the room. Tell your daughter every single day at every age that she is beautiful, so that when the world tries to tell her otherwise, she already knows the truth in her bones. Because not everyone is born with that confidence. I know I wasn't, and it took me decades to get there. Remember the office friend's friend that I mentioned? Her one sentence, one moment, and years of quiet conditioning had gently loosened up for me. That is the power that you hold when you choose to see someone. Use it. And remember, I am the most beautiful version of Anukriti that exists. God could not have created another mold, and neither could He for you. Take care of yourselves. I'll see you in the next one.